Good morning, my fellow travelers on Spaceship Earth. It is I, and I am Guy. Good morning, Brent. So far this morning, we've discovered that one of the boxes collapsed last night, which was fine, but it made a loud banging noise that I dreamt of and it was weird, and so I don't know. It was strange. Anyway, I am working on the fighter still. This is where we are. This is where we are. All right. You're working on work. Yeah, I get that. I am going to try to figure out how to make this all like one unit thing. I think the first thing though I need to do is do a side view of a side door on the landing gear, because that door is fine, but the side, we need to do a side one. Then we're going to need to duplicate that leg and the ailerons and flaps. Oh man, I'm tired. I did not sleep well last night for some reason. It lost the door. Hey, Pepper. There we go. Does that mean it's adorable? Turn off the ground view from below. All right. Spicy. I need more sleep. It would be much more interesting with the gear down. This door just cuts right through everybody. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Door will just cut through everything. It cuts people. Right? The door stops being adorable the moment it starts cutting people. They warned us about that back in school. All right. Right. Well, I mean, they got to teach us something more in PhD. Otherwise, like, what kind of doctorate did you actually get? These are all the questions people ask. Well, if you didn't learn about adorable doors, how in the world did you actually get a doctorate? All right. Cycle that gear. Ka-chink. Lock into place. And I don't think that saved me much in the right direction, though. I was hoping it'd be better in the other direction, but it's not going to be. And that's fine. I just need to learn to accept this. There. My thesis would be wild. Yes, it would. That container holds that nose wheel really well. Now what I need to do is cut this notch out. So we're going to take this nose gear door. We're actually going to take main. And we're going to say Boolean difference from door. Work. And that, once the nose gear door is opened, like so, and the nose gear cycles down. Cycle. Really? The nose gear cycles down and lock into place. It should look like that, which it does. And that works just fine. Though not entirely just fine. Z, 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 Z. And one more Z. Now take the nose gear door and go down. So, main hole and modifier Boolean difference door, please. Thank you. Now the nose gear door should be fine. There we go. That's what we're looking for right there. Cool. And we'll cycle gear. And that's locked. And there we go. The rear gear looks correct. And the front gear looks right. And all of it looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. Isn't that nice? Now all we need to do is duplicate everything that is on the left side of the aircraft to the right side. It's popped, locked, and dropped. You're not wrong. Cockpit opens and closes properly. I wonder if there's going to be a way I can set these things so they only open a certain amount. There we go. That's the way that should be. That's weird. Yeah, we're glad to have you still with us there, Pepper. Mm-mm. Did you just make it? Okay. So I don't want you to make a copy of the entire spacecraft. Just this guy right here and this guy. That's it. What in the world's going on? I hit copy and paste and it copies the entire spacecraft. Or the main hull in the entire spacecraft, I guess. Makes some sense, I guess. Good night, Pepper. See you later. Okay, starting to get kind of annoyed here, guys. Why is the upper leg separated? Why is it out here? Why can't I move it into the collection? Why does it have to be a different collection? And because it's in a separate collection, you can't copy it in the same thing. You have to copy both pieces and move them all around. They're not connected. And I can't get this piece to connect to that piece. And I'm like, why? It shouldn't be this hard, guys. It's like everything. Oh, yeah. You can't do it that way. You have to unlink it in the Snurgleblatt subsection of menu 47B, and you have to remove it from the hierarchy of the angels of whatever. What? Where do you guys come up with this stuff? That's what I was afraid of. If you delete it, it deletes it everywhere. It's all gone. Everywhere. All the pieces. Every last piece. It's all screwed up, but at least I don't have to remodel it. It really should have a stupid mode. Some of these programs are really, really intelligent in there. They're really trying hard to make it open enough that you can do whatever you need to. But that also means that, they have these sections where it's like, well, in this section, you have to redo the this, that, and the other part of this so that you can do the this, that, and the other thing. And you got, what? Wait, what? Why? Well, just in case you ever wanted to, on the outside, do this other thing. We don't. We don't. We don't want to do that other thing. It's fine. Well, how do you know? You may not decide that. You may one day need to do that. Okay, but most of us are doing the same thing over and over and over. There we go. And this is just weird. Oh, and it didn't even copy the lower light. That's nice. That's literally what I needed you to do, but you didn't. Okay. We're going to copy each and every piece and make a new, entirely different. Oh, this is so weird. All the pieces will need to be duplicated, each and every one of them. Yeah, let's just get rid of these both. Why are these all linked together? I might as well. People are like, why do you use Daz Studio? I'm like, this is the reason why I use Daz Studio. I don't typically have a problem with doing something in a different way. It's that it's set up so open that you pretty much every time you want to do it sort of what you think you'd want to do it the easy way, it becomes the hard way. And that's always sort of been my kind of really sort of moment. I am sure that what will really happen somewhere along the line is I will discover. See, these aren't even connected to. They should be connected there. Well, that's not good. Kittiwake carries none of these guys. The answer is kind of 0. Kittiwake would be too small to capture and refurbish fighters. However, destroyers carry usually a squadron of 6, if not 2 squadrons of 6, depending on its outlook or depending on its loadout. This is crooked too, huh? Why are these not lined up? The B5 way? Oh, I see what you're saying. So every vehicle in Bellatrix Rising has like its purpose and it plans for it. So the fighters here can operate on a landing strip on a planet or launched from a destroyer. B5's fighters are not designed well for landing on planets. There's no way to actually land them. So, well, that's not what I wanted to see. That's definitely not what I wanted to see. We're going to have to change the axis on that. I might have forgotten how to do that, but we'll figure it out. We'll have to do it somehow anyway. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I'm glad you're working really nicely on this one. Why are you this is back to the who said you could extrapolate that? Because the other doors operate just fine, but no, you're crazy. You decided to pivot. Watch this local door right here. Jerk. The rest of the doors open reasonably fast and reasonably correct. That door does not. Also, they all moved. They're also smaller. We didn't fix the doors. We're going to have to fix all of the doors individually. Oh, boy. So, in space, they're held by an arm. So, when you're in space and space deployed, the fighters have an arm that it sits on, and it just swings the fighter out and then drops the arm, and the fighter takes off. So it doesn't, the arm just gets it away from the spacecraft. So, or in the case of a large ship like a destroyer, they have the fighters clamped down into the deck, and then the ship goes into free fall, and they release the clamps, and they drop the clamps down, and the fighters can just move out of the launch bay. I was going to have fun with the animation, but now I'm like starting to think this is stupid. All right, we'll remove this. All right. Because we need to fix some things. The least of which is now these doors don't fit properly. That's nice to know. They're all going to have to be manually straightened out, and yeah, look at that. None of them are in there correctly. That's brutal. It's gonna be fun. And by fun, I mean this isn't gonna be fun. I mean, it's not going to be horrible. It's just going to be a pain in the butt while I align all these doors. I forgot totally we changed the size of the landing, or the landing gear bays. Yeah, it'll be fine. Here, let me see if I can show you. All right. Here we go. I'll show you how this works. All right, here we go. This is how it launched. The same way they launch VF1s off of the Daedalus and the Prometheus. So that's the Prometheus. And you can see they slide the VF1s out on an arm. Just like that. Kyun, 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 kyun. Watashi no kan. Pairoto. And now I'm singing with me. There is nothing you can do about it. These all duplicate pivots. Oh my god. How many other things are under here? Hip joints. Oh boy. So, yeah, that's how it works. It's just they're deployed out on an arm. The only reason these fighters have wings at all is because you may need to do surface operations on planets. And Unity's spacecraft are designed to, any type of planetary spacecraft are designed to withstand atmospheric pressures. So you could fly into Jupiter with this and it just keep going along and doing its thing and being who it is, you know. Kyun, 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 kyun. Watashi no kare ga pairoto. Anybody here who's wondering where my influences come, I would highly recommend watching Macross I Oboete Masuka, or Do You Remember Love? That's the Macross movie. Definitely influenced by that movie. Quite seriously influenced by that movie. Right, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's not like they couldn't just pop the explosive bolts. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the arm deployment, like you just saw there, is for smaller spacecraft. Destroyers just have a big open zone right through the middle of it. So if, for example, the Kittiwake were to take on these fighters, they would be on an arm attached underneath it or attached on top. There's a hard point on the top of the Kittiwake which you can see it's a square hard point. That hard point can carry 2 fighters on either side on 2 arms that just sit like they'd sit side by side. The hard part, of course, is that you can't get people in and out of the fighters because they'd be in hard vacuum. So you'd have to kind of make that work somehow, but it would work. I mean, the Kittiwake can carry 2, but it's a special piece of equipment that snaps onto that hard point on the back of the ship. And she's not very space-worthy or airworthy when she's got them snapped onto the back like that, because all of her aerodynamics are messed up. Yeah, destroyers. So the destroyers have 2 panels or 2 large container things on either side. I can't explain them very well. Let me see if I can bring up a destroyer we can discuss this with. A destroyer, because I don't mind. Destroyers, cruisers, all of the larger ships have multi-purpose modules, which are in the back of the ship. And the MPMs on the back can be swapped out to do different things. Still loading. Yes, I accept that you want to upgrade and you want me to do it right this second, and I accept that. I'm not going to. All right, Bellatrix. Let's see here. So I bring in a destroyer, right? These are the NPMs on the side, right here and right here. Those multi, right? It can be. It depends on what you loaded out the NPMs with. So these panels on either side, right here and here, these 2 right here, can be swapped out. If you've got, let's say, a torpedo destroyer, then those are full of really large, highly maneuverable torpedoes to take out other ships. And the torpedoes they're called wave torpedoes, and they can operate barely in space, just a little bit on in space, enough that their internal guidance doesn't have to be compromised, but they're automated to a degree. But they're huge. They're designed to take out really big spaceships. So they can be torpedoes. You can have them set up as missile destroyers. So the DDTs would be, of course, a torpedo destroyer. A DDG would be a missile destroyer. And then if you then just have it'd be DDV, which is a carrier destroyer. And so the NPMs get swapped out. For the DDMs or DDVs, where they're carriers, it's got an open port on the front and on the back. And yes, it's effectively like Galactica. It's just got a bay that goes through the middle on either side. And the fighters would sit on either side of the bay like this, and then line up and then launch straight out the front, and then go forward and launch straight out the front. Yep. My transporters probably will never really exist in this. There's a story I have which involves a transporter, but it doesn't end well. So it's sort of that. One of the stories here involves a transporter, but yeah. So these are the destroyers here, and they can carry fighters in these ports on either side. On the MPMs on either side of the vessel. When those come loose, you can take them apart off of the center strut and then put different ones on. And to give you an idea, Come on. There we go. That, of course, is the kitty wake compared to a destroyer. The destroyers are a little larger. They hold more people, but they're also not designed for atmospheric operation at all. And so there's no wings. It's not designed for that at all. So there you go. And that's how that worked. Right? Or so I am heavily influenced by Macross, and I always have been. And so that will never be a difference there. I think this is in Delta. No, it's Frontier. Or you can do like Frontier. And do this. Because the Macross Frontier can be the F-22S can be remote controlled like this. The F-22S Messiah. But I like the fact that in the newer Macrosses, you can control the Valkyrie and bring it up to you. It understands hand commands. All right, back to work. We're gonna have to bitmap this guy too, because we have to figure out what his deck plans look like. They get stuck when they are coming in. Oh, you mean into the landing bays? Just like in Galactica? Well, I mean, yes and no. It doesn't. There are a lot of things where there are weak points in space. The truth of the matter is, all of these ships, I mean, a fighter especially, fighters don't take up as much space. And so this can be an auxiliary landing pad if we needed to, right up here on top. They could land up here if they needed to. Just make this a landing strip. Everybody's flight suit is space compatible. I mean, even the standard operating uniforms in Unity are space compatible. You can survive for up to 2 hours on just, see in a second. You can survive up to 2 hours in just the spacesuits that they have, just their uniforms. So if you were spaced, blown out a hole of the ship without any warning, the spacesuit or your uniform can keep you alive for up to 2 hours in hard vacuum. So, I mean, worst comes to worst, you put your fighter down here, you tie it down to the tie downs on top of this pad up here, and then walk over to the door and go inside. You know what I mean? Like, space operations, these guys are 500 years from now. They've got space ops down to nothing. It doesn't, I mean, unless the destroyer is in high G maneuvers, there's no problem. Even if the destroyer is under maneuver, as long as it's maneuvering with the ball, then everything will fall towards the black hole that it's generating in front of it anyway. So you'd be in free fall. So the ship could still land. You could still do space ops on the top here, right on this section. It wouldn't hurt at all. Butch yard. Here's my Corvette. The Corvette should be roughly about the same size as the nose panels of the destroyer. It goes all the way. I mean, everything in the Corvette could almost fit in the nose piece. Hey, some user. There's an MPV. I'm going to give you an idea of how big the MPVs are. So the MPV will be slightly the same, or about the same size as the fighters that we're building. And you can already see that. Yeah. Oh, we're making lots of 3D models. We're discussing how to deploy and not deploy ships in Bellatrix Rising. Fighters specifically. Because we're building this fighter right now, right over here. And he's almost done. Here's our fighter. And I'm working on various aspects of him. Like, for some reason, I forgot totally to do the landing gear doors. And now I have to go do them all manually, and that was no fun. But I've done them now, and so they are done. And this side needs to be done next, but we'll get it next, and it will be fine. I'll do you. There we go. Edit mode. So how are you doing today, some user? There is a small amount of disagreement about deployment of spacecraft amongst the people on this thread. So not, anything unusual or yes, we have an asteroid that's going to eclipse Betelgeuse. And it's going to be one of the weird things that you will never see in your lifetime, except here in just a little bit. So that other door. Where's that other door? There you are. So some user, if you're wondering what Donald's talking about, the star Betelgeuse, which plays prominently in my comic, will be eclipsed by an asteroid tomorrow, I believe. And the asteroid is going to pass between us and Betelgeuse. And so in a weird, you don't ever see this but once in a blue moon, you'll actually be able to see the asteroid for just a second. I mean, Aw, that's cool. I actually absolutely despise Secret Santas. And it's because childhood trauma, but still. I'm glad that other people enjoy it. I've had a rough time with my Secret Santa situations. Anytime we've had Secret Santas, it's always been brutal. It never goes well. All right, now let's take a look and see which leg is out of place. Left upper. There we go. You're bah humbugging this year, right? That makes sense. Oh, okay. I had a pretty traumatic experience in third grade, and it has always affected me on Christmas. We were in third grade. We were having a Secret Santa, and you were supposed to. Every kid had their stockings, and you were supposed to remember to put a tiny present in the stockings every day for all of the 12 days of Christmas and things like that. And at the very end, you were supposed to buy a big present and everything. And of course, Mr. ADD here forgot every morning. I made that mistake every single morning. I forgot to bring in a present because I was in third grade and had undiagnosed ADD. And that went for all 12 days, and I kept forgetting. And of course, I knew I was supposed to, but by the end of the day and by the time I'd gotten home, I'd forgotten totally what I was supposed to do. And so, the day was gone. I transitioned to another world, if you will, because I got home and I didn't have to remember school stuff, because that's what ADDers do. And then at the end of the 12 days, the teacher, kind of looked around and said, "Oh, well, Guy didn't do any of this, so he doesn't get to participate, and we're going to take his present and give it away." And I had to sit in the circle with all the other kids opening presents, and I didn't get to open a present or anything. And she made sort of an example of me, and it was super traumatizing. And to this day, I hate white elephants. I hate Secret Santas. I hate them all. I don't like to participate in them. It just freaks me out. And it also kind of screwed up the way I give gifts and receive gifts, because it's too much stress. It's super stressful for me to do the gift giving things and stuff like that. So I'm totally cool if nobody gives me any gifts, because I tend to forget to give people gifts, and it completely stresses me out. And so it's one of those things. And it was just stupid. It was like, I don't even know why she thought that was a good idea, but she did. But yeah, that was. Oh yeah, this was. Third grade for me was 1979, right? 1980, the year 1979 to 1980. Back then, there was no ADD. Nobody knew what ADD was. So clearly, I was just a kid that wanted to do something bad, as far as she was concerned. And that's usually what most people will do with me. They stop giving me gifts because I don't ever return gifts, because I never give gifts back, because it's super stressful. It completely freaks me out. And so it's one of those things. It's a story I tell now to, like my kid, to kind of say, hey, these things occur, and don't let this trauma be your trauma. Don't let it happen to you the same way it happened to me. And we're in a better place now. Like the culture is better now. We understand that some people just don't quite get it. And that's cool. We're working better, doing a better job. And yeah, that teacher was an idiot. She's also the teacher that messed up my ability to do math. Thank you. Because the same thing, right? I couldn't get it. I couldn't grasp it. I kept forgetting my homework. And so she ultimately just punished me she put me in the punishment seat, which was right next to the fire alarm. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with some of the aspects of ADD, but one of them is that we are brontophobic. We're sensitive to loud noises. And the fire alarm was a huge, nasty horn. When it went off, it was this loud horn. So I started to really freak out about that too. A lot of my childhood trauma comes from frickin' third grade. I'm just saying. See, it made 2 of these. Doesn't need this one. This one. Where'd this one come from? So, no, I didn't pull the fire alarm. Oh, now see, that's kind of cute, but I'd forget to draw it. No, I'm actually so terrified of fire alarms now that it's one of the small things that make me not want to teach. I have a resistance in teaching, just because there could be a fire alarm at any time, and that freaks me out. So, but no, I would never pull the fire alarm. Yeah. The problem was that I actually wasn't a belligerent child. I wasn't. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I had no idea I had a disability of any sort. I just thought I also was an idiot and couldn't do the things for whatever reason. So I just kind of bought the story, so to speak, Looks like all those doors sealed. Good. And all my flaps are good. Good. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, wow. You touched the string to the fire alarm. That's actually kind of funny, Donald. I like that. It's one of those things where I know we sort of feel like the kids these days are all, oh, you've got a problem and we've got to give you consideration. And I know that causes a certain amount of consternation to certain people. And I get that. And I appreciate that. I do. But then on the flip side, I think about, where I was expected to just be normal, just stop being weird. Like that was a thing we could easily just do. Just stop being weird and start being a normal kid. And, all it did was just make me stressed out. I'm even seeing it now with my current kid, who they do know that they are neurodivergent and do try to give them accommodation. And it still, still causes consternation and stress. And school's pretty complicated. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to navigate school. I've said this all along. My child is not in school to learn, math and science and everything like that. My child is in school to learn how to socialize with other human beings, because my child will get all that they need. I mean, you've even seen me here on this show. Didn't do trig. I failed it completely. But I've been sitting here with these star charts going over and over and over the trigonometry and doing the trigonometry badly, but I was able to make it work until Bill came along and made it better. You know what I mean? Like, Bill could do the math better than me. And so I turned it over to Bill. But as an adult, even doing something I want to do in math, I could do. I could just turn it over to Bill, which he does a better job. So there's that. But I mean, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, it's how it works. My child will be the same way. Whatever deficiencies they have in their academics, they will just figure out a way, because they've got the capability to do all of it. I'm not worried about the mathematics. I'm not worried about I'm worried, as I told them 2 nights ago, because they're getting an F in one of their classes. And I'm like, look, I don't expect A's. I'm never going to expect A's out of you. You can do A's if you want. That can be your personal drive. But what I want you to do is show me that you're beating ADD and not letting ADD beat you. And every time I see an F in a class, that's ADD kicking your butt. And that's what needs to be fixed, because you can't live in the world if you don't have control of ADD. I mean, people are willing to give you some consideration. They're willing to give you a little bit of help here and a little bit of help there. But if it requires them to do more effort to keep you operating than it is to keep you employed, they will not employ you. So yeah, exactly. Once you've gotten the basic things down. So right now we're in 8th grade, and I'm telling them right now, I'm like, I don't expect anything more than a C out of everything, but I expect straight C's. And you can then expect B's or A's out of yourself. That is fine. And I will be happy to see B's and A's, and I will throw parties and, whatever that will make you encouraged to do more B's and A's. But that's not the expectation. I don't need you to make B's and A's. I need you to make straight C's. If you can make straight C's, then you hit the minimum. And that means that ADD is not your master. And that's what we need. ADD cannot be in control of you. Wow. Yeah, see, that's not cool. And I'm not, even with this F, the kiddo is on screen time restriction, but only until they've fixed everything. You know what I mean? they can get everything repaired and back up online, they get their screens back. But I'm not beating my child. And I'm sitting down with my child and saying, hey, all I want you to know is you're letting ADD beat your butt. Don't do it. You don't want ADD in control of your life. Yeah. You don't want ADD in control of your life. You want to be in control of ADD. And it will make mistakes and things will happen and you will get screwed up and things like that. And all kinds of things will occur. And mistakes are going to occur. But what I want is the occasional F, not a constant string of Fs, which is kind of where we are right now, is a constant string of Fs, which is difficult, and I get it. But they're not being punished. I'm not sending them to their room without dinner or not beating on them or anything like that. I did take away their screens so they can't watch YouTube, but that's only because, honestly, if they've got YouTube, they won't do work, and they know it, and I know it, and I'm not a dumb dad, so, But yeah, ADD is such a pain in the ass, I swear to God. Oh, man. Select 3D cursor from the drop-down menu. Okay, object. Let's take you. Let's see if we can do this. Shift plus S and choose snap. Wait. Cursor to selected. Okay, that didn't help me any because it's still going that direction. I need it to be in alignment with the vehicle. Shift right click anywhere in the scene. You can move the 3D cursor. Shift. Okay. Okay, now how do I pivot it? Enter edit mode. Choose a vertex, edge, or face. Shift S. See, that didn't help. Still did not help. Cursor to selected. I need to rotate it. Rotate. Oh, yeah, but that's not what I want it to do. Because now, of course, this has also moved it forward, which is dumb. I don't want it forward either. Yeah, and ADD has an entire group of dumb it's got its own host of stupid hearing problems and hearing issues. And I was dyslexic. I was having problems with hearing, auditory processing issues. I still have auditory processing issues. Um, and that's just that's the nature of the beast. I have absolutely zero interest in people um, having to go out of their way for me, but sometimes it would be nice if people understood that I didn't hear them because of the noise level in the room. I used to think I was going deaf as a child. I thought I was losing my hearing. But like right now in this office, I can hear everything. I can hear my cat over there. I can hear my buddy in the next room talking on the phone. I can hear everything. My hearing is fine. The problem is that I cannot distinguish one sound from another. So if I'm in a crowded room, like with a lot of people in there, all of the talking gets into my ear at the same level as somebody talking to me that I'm looking straight at. So it's all just one big wall of noise. So I've learned to read lips. And I didn't realize that that was not something that everybody did until much later in my life. Um, so it was something I didn't know that that was going to be a thing. And then it was. And so here I am. And it's interesting because I can read lips, which is kind of fun because sometimes I can turn the volume off on a movie and read what they're saying still. Yep. Right? You just start reading lips and you're like, well, I guess I read new. I didn't know, but that's what I do. My hearing's fine. I mean, even considering the fact that I am now middle aged, my hearing is fine. There's nothing wrong with my hearing. Dubbed films mess with me. That actually really does mess with me. I prefer, for that very reason, I prefer to watch all foreign films in their native language, even if it's a language I do not speak. We've been watching a bunch of German films recently because a buddy of mine, their second culture, if you will, is Germany. And because they're both military brats, and my friend and his wife are both military brats. They were both um, raised on military bases, and they met each other in Germany. And so when they were both stationed, when both the families were stationed there, they're Americans, but they were raised on a German base. And so their second culture, like my second culture is Japan, their second culture is Germany. We've been watching these fascinating TV series from Germany, and I cannot watch it dubbed. It has to be in German. And I can't speak German, but if I try to hear the words and their mouths aren't moving the same way, my brain gets a schism in it, and I can't understand it. So yeah, so I will watch every movie, and besides, I prefer to hear what the director wanted the actors to do. So, for example, a director comes in to a scene and says, I want you to play this without any emotion because the character is detached and doesn't feel connected. So, when you say your lines, please say them without any emotion. But then it gets dubbed into English, and the English actor didn't get that instruction from the director and says it with such emotion that it actually kind of changes the feel of that scene and changes the way the character feels. So even though I can't understand what language they're speaking or even understand the words they're saying, I prefer to watch it in the way that the director wanted it to be done. So, yeah, I totally agree with that one. If you're watching it and the subtitles don't match, things get annoying. They do that with Star Trek, and I'm like, guys, come on, because they will actually they are experiencing hearing problems now. So even with that, you know, it's they still watch. They'll watch everything now with subtitles on. They'll watch British shows because sometimes the British accent is so thick that they can't understand what they were trying to say. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, there's that. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, that's oh. Oh. But yeah, I mean, and being somebody who's been watching anime since 1991, I'm already used to watching things with subtitles. It's kind of interesting. Recently, I've actually been kind of annoyed by the subtitles in anime because now I speak Japanese enough that I can hear and understand what they're saying. And so I prefer to not be corrupted by the English. The English will come across and say, "Have a good day, Donald. I'll see you later. Please take care of yourself. We'll be here. You can join me later. We shall regale you with landings, carrier landings, and combat landings on destroyers." All right, 3D cursor. Right, I get that point. Well, okay, but how do I pivot to the side on this? Or is this just one of those I don't need to? And maybe the difference here is I go into edit mode, select this guy, and rotate him. Ah, I think I figured it out. All right. So I rotate him this way to the 3D cursor and align him. That makes some sense. And go here, do the same thing. Rotate him forward until he is completely aligned with the 3D cursor. I think that's how it works. Then I go to the median point here, like so. No. Right here. Now, if I go to edit mode and I go back into the bounding box center, the 3D cursor should be the same. Oh, well, it wrote, no, shit, that didn't work. Or did it? No, it didn't work. Okay. Crap. Right, undo. Oh, God. Yeah. And 3D cursor is now in a completely different location. Hey, Carolyn. How do I rotate a specific point and control pivot points? Set origin to the 3D cursor. Is that through this right mouse click? No. Or is that? No, here. Cursor to selected. No. Move the pivot point there. Really should move the pivot point here. That way I can move the entire beastie into its alignment like it's supposed to be. I have finished watching Witch from Mercury, which is the newest Gundam. That was pretty cool. It's Gundam Utena. We're now watching Gundam Wing again because it's been so long since I've seen Gundam Wing. So it happens to be on Crunchyroll. We've been watching Tsurune. Tsurune is about Kyudo. And since I'm a second degree in Kyudo, I actually rather like watching Kyudo. And it follows totally Rule 36. So Rule 36, you know what Rule 34 is. Rule 36 is, if it exists, there's an anime of it. So it has an animation, which probably clear animation data needs to be taken out, because that's not cool. Let's see, what else? We've also been watching Spy X Family, because that's just silly and super twisted, and the kiddo and I absolutely adore it. But this family is a purist, so there's no dubs. We don't watch dubs in this family. It's only subtitled. And so even my kiddo has been watching the gender bender rule. I really need to right mouse click the object. There's no origin on here. Right click the object, select set. Oh, I have to switch back. Oh, I have to switch back to object mode. Object mode. Right mouse click the object. That's it. Set origin. All right. See, the 3D cursor is not changing. That's the problem. Is this is a we haven't gotten to the penguin yet, so that's right. We'll figure it out. Yes. Monogatari. Oh, yeah. So, for a good example of that, watch anything from Rumiko Takahashi. So, Ranma One Half or Urusei Yatsura or whatever. Rumiko loves puns. It's one of her favorite things to do. And sometimes the way that I like the way that the fan subbers did it back in the day, which was you would see the thing, they would say the pun, there would be an asterisk by the word in the subtitles, and then either there was one subtitler who would just put an asterisk and then a one after it, or an asterisk and then two, and then an asterisk and then three, and then at the end of the show it would say one, blah 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 blah, two, blah 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 blah, three, blah 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 blah. Because there are a lot, especially in Japanese, there's a lot of puns. For example, the main character in Urusei Yatsura, the main male character's name is Ataru. And Ataru is to hit, which is something that makes a double pun, because to hit on something means you understood it, right? So you could say in Japanese, "Atarimashita," I got it. And it'd be like, oh, I see what you're saying now. You know, you can use that as that, but you can also use it to imply being hit. Like, look out, you're about to be hit, you know. And so the first scene you see Ataru is ogling a girl, and somebody goes, Ataru, Ataru, because they're like, they hit the ball in the baseball field, and he turns and goes, is somebody calling my name? And the baseball hits him in the side of his head, which is the double entendre pun. But there's no way to explain that. It doesn't make any sense. You'd have to name the main character to be hit. You know, that'd be like his name. It sounds so weird in English. So there's no way to really do that except to footnote it. And it ends up with so many jokes that are footnoted, especially in things like Rumiko's world, where Takahashi Rumiko has so many jokes that are all that way. In Meizan Ikoku, each character's last name is based on the number of their room. So Ichinose is the character who lives in room 1. And what is it? Nimura lives in room 2. Akane's last name is San something or another, but it's 3. And of course, the main character is Godai, and Godai lives in room 5, right? Well, yeah, I mean, we do the puns all the time. Hunter would be a good... No, Hunter's definitely a name. We've got Smith. Smith, the most common name in English is Smith. And that's someone who works with iron or works with metal. You smith iron, or you smith metal. So like if I were to make horseshoes, I'd be a smith. That'd be what you'd call me. A blacksmith, for example, works usually with iron as opposed to a steelsmith who would work with steel, or, you know, anything like that, or a goldsmith or a silversmith. Smithing is the verb to deal with metal, to do the whole heating the metal up and then cooling it and then heating it and then cooling it and then hammering on it and then heating and cooling. That's a smith. So you could make a pun off of that, you know. I've got an ancestor whose last name was Shoemaker, and at one point in time they were all shoemakers, and so they would go around introducing themselves as Shoemaker in name and trade because they thought they were clever, you know. And it's like, it all makes sense. They thought they were being clever with this because at that point in time, shoemaker had sort of evolved into a name that we didn't think about. You didn't think about it anymore. The origin of the word, you just called them, shoemaker. You didn't think about it. So they were clever because at one point in time, they actually were shoemakers. And so, recently, I am sure that if you went back far enough in the shoemaker line in my family tree, you'd find that they were actually shoemakers in France or in Holland or in England or, somewhere. But the shoemakers in my family, only about 3 generations back, were actually making shoes in the 1800s, 4 or 5 generations back in the 1800s here in America. And so I think that's more of what they were saying in the joke, we're shoemakers in name and trade. They thought they were clever. So there are definitely jokes like that, but you certainly could have that. Most names come from professions, last names, the family names. Because for a long time, in a lot of our cultures, would pick up the trade of the parents because of the nature of society. You needed to have a smith, otherwise you wouldn't have shoes for your horses, right? So you'd have a blacksmith, and the blacksmith's children would pick up the smithing, and so you'd end up with Bob the smith, and then his kid would be Tim the smith, and then at some point in time it'd just be Joe Smith. They drop the and it just becomes Joe Smith. That's the smith of this particular city. He's the one that smiths things. And so we get to a point where it becomes irrelevant. And then as the big cities grow up, you can change careers. Once you're no longer in a little teeny city with only 12 people in it, you can start changing careers. Well, you're Bob of the Smith family, but you wanted to go make shoes. So you made shoes. And so we just called you Bob Smith, but you make shoes. And Joe Shoemaker has moved on to being a groomer. And so now he takes care of the horses. Right. Right. Well, and in Sweden, you've picked up the same thing. Anders' son, that's the same thing we've got here, Stevenson. Stevenson's a last name for a lot of people here, and that's Stephen's son. So we've got the same thing going, and a lot of times you'll end up with the last name is clearly a city, because I think my last name, Davis, I think that was a place. I don't think that was a profession. But I came from, my grandmother's side is Stewart. And Stewart comes from steward, or someone who protects the king. And that's because that Stewart is the royal family Stewarts from Scotland. And they were the protecting of the king. So that's why I can wear tartans and I can wear kilts, because my family right here, right at my immediate line, is the direct line straight back to King James I. And I have Stuarts. And so, but the plaid, of course, is silly because think of plaid. That's my plaid, because it's the Stuart plaid, which is the basic plaid. So it's that red plaid that you see whenever anybody wears plaid. So I tend to not like to wear, my kilts tend to not be in the family colors, because it looks like I just picked up a kilt somewhere at a store. And nobody realizes it's actually my family, and that's actually my tartan, and that's actually my colors and stuff like that. So I tend to wear things like Scotland Pride because it's a purple and I really like it. It's a pretty purple. I also like the hunter blue. There's a hunter plaid for Stewarts, that I can wear, but it's a nice ice blue. That's a really pretty one. It goes badly with my Starfleet uniforms. Like I can wear my Stuart plaids, but I have to be wearing command colors. I can't wear science colors. My science uniforms clash badly. Maybe it may be because Scandinavian usually adds the sun to the end of it, like the son of Anders, like you were saying. That's more Scandinavian, and you probably are right. It's probably because there's also Anders as a last name, right? So you'd end up with Anders and Anderson, right? And so those are two different families. And the Anders family probably came from your UK stock, like from England or from Scotland or Ireland or something like that. Although Ireland is always pretty straightforward. You're either of a family, and that's O apostrophe. So you get like you're of Neil's family, so you're O'Neill, and that's where that comes from. Or Mac, I can't remember what Mac means, but Mac is the same thing. So Mac is like of a family, or it's an extension to a family. Either you're the offspring of, or whatever. So it becomes, Mac Neil, and then that becomes either, and that could be sometimes shortened to MC. So Mac Neil. It's still pronounced Mac Neil, but MC by itself is the shortened version. Those are Scottish or Irish names. Like they are pretty straightforward. You're direct Scottish Irish at that point in time. But I think you're right. Anything sun, whatever sun, probably is Scandinavian. Um, it's like something ova, something, with that ova, nova, rova. Those are usually Slavic, so they're coming from the Slavic countries, Czech or Russia or Kazakhstan or things like that. Those are pretty easy to tell too. Anders is a common first name. Makes sense. John is our common first name. Bob is a common first name. That's why I call everybody Bob. But Bob is a shortened name. It's short for Robert. And so when Bob gets there and it becomes funny. So I love this stuff, by the way. If you're wondering, this is totally why I'm going back to school for to be to do cultural anthropology. This stuff fascinates me. Why do we have cultures that evolved? Why? You know, what was the evolution? What caused them to change? Why are certain cultures known for this or known for that? Or what was the history behind it, and why is it changing now? You know, how do we make it so that we all can live in the global community as one people? You know, some user you're over there in Europe, but I consider you part of our little family here on this TV show or this stream, if you will, just as much a member of the family as Brent or as maybe Bert. I feel like comes from Bert is a different name here. You're welcome. But I mean, that's a thing, right? Because we all have something in common, and that makes it irrelevant where we're from or what country we're from or what nation we're from. Yeah, I have a number of friends now that are Japanese, and they're just as much my friends as the Americans here, or any race that I can think of. It doesn't change or alter the fact that I love them the same, you know. And I think that's fascinating to me. Humans have a weird skill in that, But the more I read about archaeology, the more I find out that that's what made us have the edge. That's why we survived. And that's why the Neanderthals didn't. It's because they didn't have that edge. That's our edge. Our edge is that we take care of each other. We help each other. We make all the rest of the humans become part of our family. And as much as it's horrible when we get into war and when we get into fights over territory and things like that, that's mostly resource bound. So now that things are becoming a little looser in the world, there are fewer resources that we have to fight over. And there are different alternatives to resources now. We don't have to fight. There's no reason for us to get into an argument. We are. I mean, new archaeology is saying, that, would you like to be scritched? Because I would scritch you. Come. Yeah. I'll give you the scritches. But I want to also make you an illustration on my stream, because here is a great illustration of how things evolved, right? Humans are not as strong as Neanderthal. We weren't even as smart as Neanderthal. We weren't as big. We weren't as well suited. Neanderthal made weapons. They could produce fire. They could do all kinds of things. Why didn't they survive? Darwinistically, they should have survived. They should have beaten us out, right? According to Darwin's rules, we are the strong and the fittest survived. Well, we weren't. And the reason is because we took care of ourselves. We took care of each other. When it got cold and when the ice rolled in, the Neanderthal built little fires on the steppe, and their little family huddled around the fire. Humans, the Homo sapiens, we built houses and took everybody in. Then these guys realized that there was a benefit to it, and they domesticated themselves. This creature right here chose to become part of the human culture. That's why we have cats, is because they domesticated themselves. They realized there was a benefit to becoming part of the human culture. So they became smaller and cuter, right? Except whenever it's the middle of the night and George says, "You will scritch me now. You are asleep, but you must scritch me now." Which is why I will wake you up in the middle of the day and scritch you, because you wake me up in the middle of the night. But these guys domesticated themselves. They were lions and tigers. And when you domesticate yourself, you become smaller and cuter, and you become much more adorable. You know, cats don't talk to each other. They only hiss or growl. The meowing only happens with kittens to talk to their mom, to make sure that their mom knows where they are. And then cats meow now because we are their moms effectively. They have become domesticated. And in domestication, you stay a child forever. That's how domestication works, right? You are an eternal child. And so you are my eternal child. Did you know that? Did you know that you're an eternal child? You probably didn't, because you probably think that you're an adult cat. You'd be right. You are an adult cat. You're also an adult pain. So there you go. But that's fascinating to me. Now I've got cat hair all over me. Good thing I'm not allergic to you. You don't find babies cute until they're your baby. But that's normal. The other thing is that we are effectively baby Neanderthals. That's what we are. Yeah, I know. You're not going to college, George. No matter how much you say you need to go to college, you are not joining me. Just be aware of that. That stuff fascinates me, and this is why I'm going back to school. I'm going back to learn all this, to get all the underpinning behind it, to figure out why. I mean, as much as we can figure out. But that's the thing. So what the theory currently is that humans are small, cute Neanderthals. We stay in baby mode all of our life, effectively. So we are encouraged to protect each other. We are encouraged to mother each other, so to speak, which means that our default mode is to take care of each other. And some of us look babyier than others. Asians, by just their design, tend to be smaller, more childish. They have less hair, things like that. So you tend to find them more vulnerable. And it's a little weird when you end up with, this situation where they're, because that's what they kind of do. And it's the nature of us. But all of us are effectively baby Neanderthal. I mean, if you think about it, we're all like smaller, cuter versions of the Neanderthals. And that's what made us survive. Because once even adult males in our species are still smaller, hairless compared to Neanderthal. We look more like babies. Our faces are rounder. They're not as elongated. So we pretty much look like little babies of the Neanderthal tribes. And the thing is that we take care of each other, and then somewhere along the line that extended out. We even took in Neanderthals. So even once the humans, the Homo sapiens showed up, we still took in the Neanderthal and brought them into our houses and brought them into our families, and we've still got Neanderthal blood running through a lot of the threads of humans. But cooperation is the big thing. That's what made us survive. And the cats discovered that if they were cooperating, it didn't make them want to protect us because we were alien, I guess. Because you'd think that would be the case, but really it was only internally. Like, we moved away from that branch, and when we did, we started to become cute to ourselves. That evolutionary trait then led us to mother ourselves, while the Neanderthals wandered off into another evolutionary trait. But they've tested this. It's actually been tested. They're in Russia in the 1950s. They took these silver foxes, which are the meanest, most vicious foxes. They're so mean, and they captured them, and they only bred the foxes that showed any sign of cooperation. All the rest of them they wouldn't let breed. And within 50 years, the foxes that they had were smaller, they had bigger ears, they had bigger eyes, they grew eyebrows so that they could emote with us. They became kinder, their tails wagged. They effectively turned into dogs. Weirdly. Right. But we don't want to protect all animals. I mean, it takes a lot of brain power to want to protect sharks, because sharks aren't cute. They look dangerous and they look scary. Yeah, we can even make jaws out of them. You know what I mean? Bears don't look cute. Bear cubs do, but bears don't. Bears look scary. You know what I mean? Like, so if you ever look at like stuffed animals, all of the stuffed animals we make are usually babyfied creatures. You know what I mean? They'll take the sharks and then make them small and fuzzy and give them big eyes and, make maybe a little bit of a smile on their teeth. But if you look at a real shark, that's terrifying. That's not scary, or that's not friendly. You don't want to hug a shark, right? I mean, there are people who can, because that's one of the benefits of being human, is that we can decide for ourselves what we think is part of the family and what isn't. And so some people are totally into sharks. Absolutely cool. Those people are marine biologists. That's what they do, right? But I mean, that's the thing, is we turned ourselves cute. There's a book out there by Rutger Bregman called Humankind. And it's a white book, and the letters human are in black and the word kind is in blue. So it's humankind. So it's the pun on humankind being like humans and humans being kind, because that's the pun on the word kind, which has two meanings in English. It can mean either a race, or it can mean, niceness, or being nice. So it's called humankind, and it makes that double pun. But in his book, he talks about all of this. This is the newer generation of archaeology, is that they're now saying that we were not Darwinistically superior to the other species of primates on this planet. We weren't stronger, we weren't smarter, we weren't faster. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. We're training from an early age. Plushies are training children to take care of other people in a way. We're giving babies so that they can learn. Well, they don't need to learn it necessarily, but it does play on that aspect. But the thing that's interesting about Rutger Bregman's book is that his theory is that we all are by default. We all by default want to take care of each other. That's our base mode. We have to be convinced to hurt one another. And I actually believe that firmly. I believe firmly that people have to be convinced. And he goes through in that book, he explains in the book everything you can think about, any situation where science has proven that left alone, we are evil people that will kill each other. And he goes through each and every one of them and shows that in this situation, there was a mitigating circumstance that forced the people to become hostile. And in each situation, all of these cases had a reason why people became hostile. And right, exactly. That's the other thing. Interesting, isn't it? We don't have a competitive streak. A lot of other creatures on this planet have that streak of killing off the siblings so that they survive. We don't have that. That's not in our nature. You can be forced to do it, but it's not our base nature. Our base nature, and that's why we won. This is why we won out. We Darwinistically won out because we cooperate. That's how we won. Because the children do not compete with each other. And so they don't kill each other. So our young don't fight each other. And as we grow up, we use and protect each other so that we become a team and a unit. And in one unit, there's 12 or 13 humans, or 12 and 15 humans, or 30 humans, or 1,000 humans. And there's no way that one Neanderthal is going to be able to deal with 15 humans, 15 Homo sapiens. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way they can deal with that, especially if we're going to cooperate and work together. You know, one human goes, hey, look over here. You look over here, and then the other human comes up behind you and then, you know, hits you in the back of the head or whatever. I'm not saying that we beat up the Neanderthal. I'm just saying that the ability to cooperate is an amazingly, astonishingly strong trait. So strong, it can override Darwinism. And I find that to be cool. Just working to cooperate, just being able to cooperate. That's the skill that made us beat everything else on this planet. But I mean, think about this. The house that I live in, I didn't build this house. I can't build this house. I'm not skilled to do that. It took a team of people. A team of, what, 6, 7 people to build the house primarily, and then another couple of people who were specialists to do wiring, to do plumbing, you know, things like that, metalworking, all of these things. And then we take a whole new set of specialists that have to build my PC and build my internet connection so that I can talk to you. But that's a ton of people. I mean, there's already 100 people involved in just me sitting on this chair talking to you today. There's 100 people directly involved in just doing this one thing. But because those 100 people are involved, you're in Europe and I'm in America, and we're just chatting. Here we are. We're happily talking to one another, you know, which is an astonishing, amazing accomplishment. Humans are amazing. But in Bellatrix Rising, the races that survived are the ones that can cooperate. It doesn't matter anything else. It's not tool making that matters. It's not how they communicate or anything like that. It's whether they cooperate with one another. Those are the races that survive. So those are the sentient races that live in the world of Bellatrix Rising. We've got another 10 or 15 aliens out there that don't quite cooperate yet. And so they're sentient. You can talk to them. They can communicate with you, but they don't work together yet. And so because they don't work together totally, they can't be part of the unity. Right? Just the keyboard alone. The keyboard alone has hundreds of people. Right? The trash in your trash can. It's another hundreds of people. That's the thing. If we can finally realize that people's default mode is to take care of each other, we'd be in a far better place on this planet. But that's a hard thing for people to learn. As he says in the book, because we have negativity bias, right? If you see something, you assume the worst of it. It's probably a survival trait. As he says in the book, he says, it's a survival trait because if you see the snake and you assume it's a cute, fluffy toy, you're not going to live long. So you have to assume that all snakes are poisonous, even though not all snakes are poisonous, right? So the same thing happens with us. We assume the worst. That guy cut you off in traffic. He's probably mad at you and hates you, when in real life, he probably just didn't do his over-the-shoulder check, because us humans, we make errors, right? So he probably was just driving along and forgot to do the check over his shoulder. And so he cuts you off, didn't realize it, didn't mean it. It was just a boneheaded error, like we all do as human beings, because we're all human. So he makes this dumb, stupid error. Oops. He didn't mean to, you know. But we will assume that it's because he was stupid or preoccupied or see you later, Brett. I will be on again tonight, so I'll see you tonight after Geek Tank, because it's Geek Tank first. But yeah, so that's why I want to get into being a cultural anthropologist. I actually firmly believe all of this. The more I see things, the more I look at things around in the world, the more I realize it's true. And some user, you and I are friends. I don't even know your name. I don't need to know your name. I know who you are, and that's okay. And that's it, right? We've become buddies. We've become friends. You're not even from the same country as me. You're not from the same culture. You're not from the same country. You're not from, but I still consider you a friend. And it's all because it depends on what you want to call, where you want to draw the line. And I certainly don't draw the line at countries anymore, and neither do you. We both have decided it doesn't matter. Our countries are important, but they're not the reason why you should be friends or not be friends with somebody. And of course, that's a lesson that's hard to learn, but once you learn it, it's pretty easy to employ. I probably should go to lunch too, because I've got lunch stuff downstairs. I could go make lunch. That's why I like food in cultures, because food is definitely a sign of what you are and how you grow up and what you eat and everything. And we can all eat all the food, like every food from every country. We can all eat it. And sometimes you're just like, what? When I go to Japan and I'm like, how are you eating this? I don't even know what this is. But you're eating it, and I guess I can eat it too. But boy, oh boy, I don't know what it is. So, but that's one of the reasons why I love food culture in all the different countries. Because it's like, I don't even know how you got to this. Why are you eating whale? Oh yeah. There's like a number of people who it's interesting, right? Escargot, things like that. And I'm neurodivergent, which makes eating food and other eating strange foods difficult, and it's uncomfortable. But it is so fascinating to me, And I'm pretty sure that I have now pretty much consumed whale and probably horse at this point in time, both of which are whale is definitely bad because you don't want to be consuming whales. They're endangered. But horse is culturally bad for Americans. Americans don't like to eat horses. And I think it comes from having to rely on your horse. But we also don't eat cats and dogs. So that's also something that could be potentially eaten in another country. There are a number of countries that do things like that. I tend to have real problems eating insects because I am not a fan of insects. I'm entomophobic, so I'm afraid of insects. So, right, that's sort of my rule. I'll give it a shot. I'm willing to try it. I may not like it, but it does tell me a little bit about what your culture is. The foods you eat tell me what culture you're from, and culture fascinates me. Like, I love hearing about other people's stories and why they do things and what their families did and things like that. All of that's so interesting to me. I was born to be a cultural anthropologist. I just didn't know that there was a word for it until recently. So off I go to be cultural anthropologist. I'm heading into school again. I'll start school in January, which means, by the way, some user, I may not see you much starting soon. So keep in touch. Are you on the Discord? Do you use Discord? If you don't use Discord, it's probably difficult to try to make you use Discord. But not knowing whether we will have the ability to keep connected for a while, I will give you not this. Okay, good. Good. That's totally fine. Just in case. Because I'll probably be using Discord more once school starts because of the fact that I'll be in class at this time during the day. Right? So it'd be kind of difficult for me to stay on here. So I will come on, but it'll be every once in a while. It won't be regular. I don't know what my schedule is. I will know my schedule Thursday because that's when I meet with my advisor. So we'll find out what my schedule is then, and maybe I will have a day off. Maybe I will have a morning off. Maybe I won't need to go to classes until afternoon on certain days. Who knows? Whatever's the story, we'll find out. And that's good. So I'm looking around the duck pond. I don't know who's in here. At some point, my dear friend, you'll have to... Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Then I will be Dr. Guy. I'm all about that. I'm going to go get my PhD in cultural anthropology, and we will study cultures, and I will be a doctor in it, and that will be really cool. And then you can call me Dr. Guy, which sounds like an evil a supervillain. I'll have my evil supervillain name. So, and as I was saying before, I got a break. The college that I applied to decided to apply 90 credit hours from my bachelor's degree to it, which is wonderful because my bachelor's degree is not accredited. And so I can't use my bachelor's degree anywhere. And so them being able, right? Evil Dr. Guy. I was not going to be able to use any of those credits, and I'm very grateful that the college has decided to accept it. Because that means I only have a year and a half that I've got to go to classes, and then I'm done. I'm done with my bachelor's degree. And so I can get a real bachelor's degree from an accredited university. Then I can start my master's in a year and a half. I don't have to go through 4 years of college, which is what I was facing doing up until just a few weeks ago, or up until last week even. I thought for sure I was going to have to go back in and go back to college and do the whole bachelor's degree all over again. All right, guys, it is 11:30. I'm getting hungry, so I'm going to go. It was good talking to you guys. For at least the remainder of this year, I will be broadcasting during the day most days, so you can still catch me through here. At some point, some user, you'll have to tell me who you are on Discord so I know you. Or make your nickname like some user or something. Right. Wow. How did you change fonts? That was awesome. Look at you changing fonts. That's awesome. Cultural anthropology. It just sounds cool. Anyway, at some point in time, some user, you'll have to tell me who you are over. You could even PM me if you want over on Discord so that I know which one of you is you. So we can keep chatting. And maybe what I'll do is every so often I'll start a thread over there on Discord. It'll slow down the comic quite a bit, but it won't stop the comic because I'm actually saying a lot of the things that I've been saying here in my comic. So I want my comic to be my legacy. And so I will keep working on my comic. It'll just be slow for the next 6 years while I become a doctor. And then it'll be by Dr. Guy, you know. Oh, you're the guy with the word picture. That works. Oh, I see. That works. Can I add a note? Note! Exclamation point. I have added a note. Does that change what you see on there? That's a good question. Can you see that I have added that note? I think I figured it out. I won't say it online because there's no reason for me to say it out loud. I don't have any. Oh, that's a bummer. Well, then I will do that. That way I will remember who you are. There we go. You don't have to change your name to the server. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It's you that's important, not your name. I mean, your name is important, certainly, but the important person, the important thing is the person, not the signal. So, like, names aren't necessarily important. I won't be any different when I'm Dr. Guy. I'll still be the same person. It's just when people first meet me, it will change their opinion. And hopefully, whenever I get into arguments, people will be less likely to assume that I'm talking out of a misplaced sense of something. You can always hope, anyway. Uh-oh. We are changing our procedures at work again. I swear, they change the procedures at work every day. Okay, I am off to go get lunch. I will talk to you guys later. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And that would be right. I know. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? It would still be cool. All right. I hope you have a wonderful evening over there, some user. And for the rest of you guys, I hope you have a wonderful day in whichever position you are in. And whether it is a evening or a morning or a night, I hope you have a wonderful time. And I'll see you next time. And remember to keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye.